All right, everybody. So, hello. Today, what we're going to do is I'm talking to Cheryl Elman about Sleep Talk. We're doing this call because we have a training coming up, and a lot of people are asking me what Sleep Talk actually is, and is it suitable for them to learn? Is it hypnotherapy? Those kind of questions. So I thought it's easier just to jump on and throw these questions to you, Cheryl, to answer them and just to give people an idea of what to expect in this kind of training. And yeah, instead of me kind of coming up with different things. Yeah, so welcome
Shall I give a
everybody.
little background?
Yeah, totally, 100%. Go for it. Yep.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Justine, for doing this. And I'm hoping that we get to have our class in New Zealand. We had one years ago, so this will be the first time. And things have changed a little. It's now called in Goulding Method dash Sleep Talk. And what is it? People say sometimes to me, oh, well, my kid sleeps. They don't have trouble sleeping. And that's not what it's about. So, have you got, how many people here are hypnotherapists? Raise your hand. Okay. Has anybody worked with children? Raise your hand. Okay, Desiree and Jenny. So, working with children and they come in and you work and you solve some issues and you reframe and then they go home and nothing has changed at home. Often what happens? Jenny, what happens?
To be honest, I haven't done a lot. So when I say I have, it's probably only about two. Um, because they're back in that environment, that slipped back into, they're still surrounded by the same, what was going on before, which contributed to the whatever it is they've come about. Yeah, would be my thoughts.
Right, that issue. Right. And so this is a good way of, as a hypnotist, of how this can be helpful to add to our repertoire of what we do. Joan Goulding, who lives in Australia, had a daughter years ago named Michelle. And Michelle is still alive today. And she noticed that Michelle would be, seemed to be slow. She was clumsy and falling a lot. She wasn't developing speech. And then about 13 months or 14 months later, she had what they call the Irish twins. She had another daughter named Teresa. And she noticed that Teresa became the leader very quickly, and Michelle was always looking to Teresa, and following and mimicking her and doing what she was doing. So Teresa was the leader and was taking care of Michelle. So Joan would take Michelle to different professionals, to talk about it. And she'd have Michelle there and she was talking. And so one professional said, there's nothing wrong with your daughter that a little good parenting wouldn't do. Wouldn't it? And so why don't you go ahead and put her in a school or, a daycare or whatever you call it in your neck of the woods, and let the professionals take care of her and go get a job. And then she'd be seeing another professional and they'd say, there's nothing wrong with your daughter that a little good parenting wouldn't help. So why are you leaving it to other people? You should just be home and working with her. So all this was going on, and she just kept noticing it was just getting worse and slower, and Michelle was getting more out of control. Well, at one point, they moved from England. They became what they call the 10-pound palm, and they moved to Australia from she and her ex-husband. And when they moved there, they got divorced. And at one point, he took the kids and he kept Teresa, but she did not see Teresa till she was 18 years old and she rang her doorbell. But he returned Michelle after I think it was 9 months. And she was more out of control. and she was just getting worse and worse. So what was going on? And now she was in school, in going to a school in Australia, and finally a teacher said to her, "Wow, what I think there might be something wrong with Michelle. Would it be okay if we tested her?" This time when they tested her, they lost the records of all the things they'd done before. So they were starting with a clean slate. And now they were truly able to look at, what was going on with her with brand new eyes. And so it came up that she had cerebral palsy. She was 7 or 8 now. Cerebral palsy. She had an IQ of 45. She had dyslexia and dyspraxia. And that's part of why there was no speech. So now there was that immediate, oh my goodness, it wasn't me. And then it was like, oh my goodness, my little daughter, And so now, by then Joan was actually married to John Goulding, who was a hypnotist and they had a hypnosis school, even though it was illegal to do hypnosis in Victoria. They would teach theoretically, and then they would go to one of the other states and do the practical, and then they would come back and they would have their diploma. So how is it that they can get through to Michelle? And so when they were riding along, and Michelle was in the back seat, and all of a sudden she went, ook, ook, and she got all excited. They were passing an empty field or paddock. She was so excited, and it was like, ook, 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 erk. And she was just, and they just looked, they were just so surprised, and they said, well, very good, Michelle. And she's standing there looking so proud of herself in the back seat. So they started to think that night when Michelle went to bed, what is it that she was reacting to? And then they remembered weeks earlier, they had gone down that country road, and there in that same field, that same paddock, there had been a circus. And what was she saying? Look, the circus. And that started them thinking, well, there may be damage to her conscious brain, but what about her subconscious? There was a lot more there, but how do we reach it? And so that's when they started thinking about, how they could do that. So can I share the screen for a moment and let's do a little exercise? Is that okay, Justine? Okay, share screen. Can you, maybe not. Oh, there it is, whiteboard.
It's just coming
Now, I
out.
know Desiree and Michelle, you might know this, but you can give some of the things, but let's get to that thing in the middle. Let me know when you see the whiteboard. It's loading it. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Navigate your workspace. Come on, give me the little tools. I'm on very slow internet. Okay, so what would gifts if they could get things across to Michelle, what gifts could they even give her? So let's talk about security. Let's give Michelle some security, sorry. Okay. What else should we give Michelle? Just go around the room. Tony, what do you think? What would be a good gift to give her?
Confidence.
Confidence. Do you have a couple others while I'm there?
I don't know. Love.
Love. Okay, good. Claire?
Courage. Courage.
Courage.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What else? Another one, Claire. Can you think of another one?
Oh, I was wondering about some insight of somehow.
Insight.
Yeah,
Okay.
trusting her inner feeling.
Okay, insight, good. Jenny? Can you guys, is it too
Val-
small or can you see the
val-
words? Are you good?
Validation.
Validation. Oh, I've never heard that one. That's a great one. Validation. Okay, how about another one?
Well, they're all are this, but like self-worth, just yeah.
Self-worth.
Mm.
Okay. Let's see, who else is down there? Justine, give me a couple.
What do I want to give the daughter? Confidence, security, love. Something like joy or something like that. What's a good
Joy.
feeling that you can have inside? Yeah.
Joy, happiness.
Happiness, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a sense of pride. I don't know.
Okay, that's good. Pride. Okay, Michelle?
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem. Okay. What else?
I'm thinking. Because
Okay.
there's some really
Anybody
good
else you
things
can
in
call
there.
out also? Yep.
Encouragement.
Encouragement. Okay.
A voice.
What else? A voice. Or do you want a voice or speech? Okay. Desiree?
Safety, a sense of safety in your
Safety.
body.
Safety. Good. And what else?
Sense of belonging.
Belonging. Okay. Good. So there's plenty of things. I don't know how, but I lost the top of it. Let's see. Maybe if I go this way, it can move. Let me go like this. Oh, hold it. I lost it. Give me a second. There. And how do I make it bigger again?
We can see the whole thing on our end, so it must be like a
You can
zoom
see
in.
it, yeah, but I need to do something, so let me see. So, okay.
Zoom out
I
on the
moved.
bottom.
I lost, I'm gonna make you guys all smaller and move that out of there. Okay. And anybody else? Give me one or two more. So just so I have that little circle. What else?
To be self-automated, like have that automation, the self-drive.
Automation or drive. Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
What about
So let's start with, and I'm gonna stick here. I think somebody had said it and it disappeared. Trust. Okay. So to give Michelle a sense of, if we were to give her a sense of security, what else needs to be in place that's here? Just call one out, look at the things. So for her to feel secure, what do you think?
Trust.
Trust, okay, good. So
Love.
for Michelle to feel trust, okay, so she could feel secure, what else should be in place?
belonging?
What was it?
Belonging?
Belonging. Okay, thank you. Okay, so for her to feel a sense of belonging, so she could trust and feel secure, what else should be in place?
Safety?
Safety, good. All right. And for her to feel safe, so she can feel like she's belonging and develop trust and feel more secure, what else could be in place?
Love.
Love, good. So for
Unconditional
Michelle to feel love, to go to safety, to feel belonging, to feel trust, to feel secure, And everything goes through the center here. And so what is it that's in the center here that everything goes through?
Here, Michelle.
Somebody actually called it out. So I could keep going around. It's like the 12 days of Christmas, right? But what do you think everything goes through here? Let me
You
give you an
called it,
example.
Michelle.
Come here. Tuffy, are you down here? Tuffy?
Michelle, you called it out just before.
Yep.
Um,
Okay. At this point, let me see. Come here. I wonder if the cat will let me lift her. Come here, baby. Can I borrow you for a minute? Come here.
Everything goes
Okay.
to the heart.
What is this kitty cat? What does this kitty cat feel about for me when she's not trying to run? My poodle does it so much better. What is it? Hey, come here, Tuffy. Can you do this for me? This is your part. Come here. Come here. Okay. So this is Tuffy. And Tuffy, hi, sweetheart. How are you? Oh, thank you. What is Tuffy? What do we have for each other?
Love.
What kind of love?
unconditional love.
That's exactly, it's so interesting that people can think of unconditional love. Thank you, honey. That they could think of unconditional love when it comes to animals, but not as much when we think of it in people. So, unconditional love. And that's what this is in here.
I did say it
Unconditional.
earlier, Cheryl.
You did. That's why,
Yeah.
and that's why I knew that you knew it from the previous unconditional love. But that's why I stopped going around and said, let's just do that. So in the things, so if you look at that chart, these are all wonderful gifts. But do you think Michelle felt unconditional love from no communication, all the times of just being spoken about? She had a dunce cap on at school. She didn't really communicate or have friends. So she didn't really have that. So let me go ahead and shut this board down for a moment. Close whiteboard. Okay, so I'm back here. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So now, how are they going to work with her? You can't do hypnosis. It was illegal. And she would sit still for it. And she didn't have enough IQ or intelligence or language that they knew of. So they started to talk to her in her sleep. And then they started to see and develop over the years how these sentences and statements would come through for her. And one day, so they kept doing the same. They developed this foundation statement and they started doing it over and over every night after she went to sleep. And one morning she came down and Joan just happened to look at her and she said to her, "Good morning, darling. How are you today?" And she just looked at her and tilted her head and went, "Happy?" So, and then she was shocked that she had that word. She didn't know where it came from, but it was part of the foundation. And so she started to feel that shift in herself. Well, as she grew older, when she was in working in a sheltered workshop kind of thing years later, they would call her Chatterbox. So that you could see how she developed and how all of this, and she's actually married. She's 50 some odd years old now. And she and her husband have a house. He has some disabilities also, but much more advanced than her. And they've been married, I don't know how many, they celebrated their 25th anniversary, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So, and so through the process that Joan created, it then got started to be used by many people around the world. I think it was used during the fires. Was it the Queensland fires? They used it with the children who had had a lot of loss. and a lot of fear, and a lot of them became orphans, and this process was used on that and as a study. So what's great about this is often the parents, and how many people work with adults in hypnosis? Raise their hand. Okay. Now, how many parents come in all stressed out about issues having to do with their kids? Okay. And so it's interesting. Lots of times parents won't do anything for themselves, but they will do something for their kids. The interesting thing is it creates this shift in the parents. Okay, so how many of you know people, or how many of you know of people that you've worked with that probably never experienced unconditional love? Yeah, okay. And so what they're doing is, so they haven't experienced it, so they don't know how to give it. So what we want to do is give that unconditional love and give them the ability to do it through this process. So it's safe, the kids are sleeping, it's safe, it's non-intrusive. Now, my husband is Dave Elman's son. So for those of you that know, does anybody here know this book? By Dave Elman, Hypnotherapy? Okay, so in this book, Dave Elman is a hypnotist, and Larry had a lot of allergies. So he created this process that he was doing on Larry in his sleep called Hypnosis Attached to Sleep. But the difference is, as he was making suggestions, and he was actually almost doing like a regression on Larry to find out what happened, because there's often, most often with allergies, there's an emotional component. What happened to him to give him all these allergies? And it was something that actually happened when he was between 3 and 4. So he found out what it was. It was pretty traumatic, and he let him continue to have amnesia for it because he was only 12 at the time. Let him have amnesia till later on. But the difference is Dave knew suggestions, knew hypnosis. Our parents don't. So what we're doing is giving them a statement, a foundation statement that's good for any child. And we build from that. There's a series of 3 assessments that we do along the way to see what has changed, what has grown, what do we want to work with. We're looking for the underlying cause, like we do often in hypnosis and working with clients, not the symptom, So what we want to do is help create that shift. So it's interesting because the parents, so many people, even when they're going through training and they get to feel that feeling of receiving that statement and giving that statement, it just feels so good to them, and so they enjoy doing it. And they start to feel good about expressing themselves in good, positive ways, and open-ended, giving that child, building their self-esteem and creating like a firewall. During the day, that child could be receiving all sorts of negative suggestions that all go into their brain, their mind. And yet each night they're getting positive statements given by their parents, which are going to start to override it. And not only will it override it, it will get it where it creates firewall. So somebody says, "You're stupid." They're not even going to buy into it after a while. Years ago, I was in Al-Anon. My first husband was an alcoholic drug addict. I remember there was a guy. One of the things I learned there, somebody came up with saying, if somebody calls you something, or your alcoholic person is mean to you and says something, in your mind, if somebody calls you stupid or ugly, do you need to believe that that's true? Or if they say to you, "You're a chair," what does that do to you? it's sort of silly, right? Of course you're not a chair. So you start to use that same concept. I used to teach high school special needs kids years ago, and I used to use that statement all the time. And I would tell them, are you a chair? And I would tell them that story. And so when they got all upset, oh, so and so called me ugly, I said, are you a chair? And that would bring back their memory, of, oh yeah, no, it's just a word. It's not going to hurt me. So what you're doing is you're giving the parent wonderful words, wonderful statements that's non-persuasive, that's going to make that child feel good about themselves. It's not going to be, I'm going to love you if you do this. It's going to be very inclusive of everything that they do, unconditional love. So that's the basics of it. Now